as we're starting, I thought maybe take a little step back, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about Australian Unity and maybe what makes it special, and as well about your role in the organisation.
Sure, thank you for having me. Look, Australian Unity was founded in 1840, so it's one of Australia's oldest mutual companies. We operate in areas of health, wealth and care, employing about 8,000 people across Australia. I kind of consider it a bit like mini Wesfarmers. We've got a bank, we've got home and health insurance, funds management, retirement villages, nursing care, and home care as well. So very diverse portfolio, and also that brings great challenges as well because of diversity of our client base. I think what makes it special at Australian Unity is every decision that we make is about, is this in the best interest of the well-being of our members, our community and the broader community and the customers. And that's always at the forefront of what we're doing. Is this going to be in the best interest of our investors in that? We're not conflicted with any shareholders and return of investment back to shareholders. It's all about the well-being of our members. So I think that makes it unique. Also for me, it's for my role, I first joined in February last year as the CEO of Wealth and Capital Markets. And then earlier this year, around July, we actually restructured our group technology. We had a federated technology model, and all the platforms looked after their own technology. We've centralised that now and restructured that, which is the current role I've been appointed to. So very lucky to do that. And my leadership team and I are responsible for driving innovation, digital transformation, and automation across our enterprise. So that's a great challenge for us because of the federated model. Everyone had their own kind of workflow processes. They picked their own tools, and we've mostly got 5 different workflow management tools. We've got 5 different CRM tools, and we've got a lot of legacy applications. As you can imagine, we've been a 180-year-old company. We've grown up, we've purchased new companies, and typically when you purchase new companies, you say you're going to do all this migration and integration, and you move on to the next thing. So that's a challenge for us.
No, that's really good, really good. So thanks for explaining that, and I always find it fascinating to see the breadth of activities of Australian Unity. And of course, congratulations on the new gig.
Thank you.
After such a short period of time, and obviously you got your work cut out for you, but as we'll see today, I think you've got the track record to tackle it. Before we get started too deep, I was keen to hear your views maybe on your perception of the adoption maturity in the business orchestration and automation market as you see it in practice.
Look, as I said, we're a 180-year-old company, so we've got a lot of legacy applications, and the challenge for us is looking ahead at new technologies and seeing how we can leverage them to integrate with our legacy platforms to drive efficiencies. And I think, as Mike talked, about the boat, we're constantly looking for the right platforms and the right partners, and hopefully it's the blue boat that Mike talks about that we can use to basically blend in AI, RPA, BPA and workflow automation tools to drive that efficiencies and provide really a seamless and frictionless experience for our investors and members. I think that's the challenge, and I think everyone's on a different maturity level. I would say that we're mostly, if it's 1 out of 5, we're about 1.5 at the moment. And I think that was the unique thing that our group executive saw that opportunity around automation and created a new unit to start to look at enterprise automation.
No, that's brilliant. That's really brilliant. Now, let's get into it maybe. Would you mind sharing a little bit about with us about the journey you have been on with Appian with us in the last 15 months since you've come on board?
Yeah. So back in around May last year, Wealth and Capital Markets kicked off a program called Allix, and you would have heard that name in the video. And there were 6 initiatives, and 2 of them was to basically digitise the platform and automate its operational spine. Surrounded with a lot of legacy applications, no case management, fragmented processes, a lot of manual processing, which really inhibited our ability to scale and provide better customer experiences. So we knew that we had to find a partner that could help us automate at speed, provide a modern platform in the cloud, low-code development, connect us with like partners to help us drive out the strategies. We also wanted to have a partner that had a continuous and clear roadmaps, and Adam will talk about that there. And that's critical for us, is that not where you are now, where you're going in the future, and does that align to where we were heading? Look, and I've been lucky. In my prior company I worked at, Appian was there. and I helped implement it as part of the investment management world. So I knew what Appian was all about prior, and I could see the history of what they were doing and how they were growing up, and those clear roadmaps were there. So that was critical for us. And then also finding an automation partner. We knew straight away when we did this, we didn't want to actually do the development ourselves. It was about who's the right partner for that. And again, Appian put us in contact with a couple of partners to talk to, and a couple of clients' references as well. And that worked really well for us as a group there. So back in October 23, we basically said Appian is our preferred vendor. And we started with the single application being Teninvest, which you saw in the video. And just to level set it, our current process before introducing Appian was we had a portal. It was more of a facade. Clients went into this portal, typed all the information in, and then as soon as they hit click, it went to the floor. We picked it up and we started to do manual processing, handed off to many people. That would usually take time to process. Errors came into it. The technology that we put the information into is about 30 years old. So no mouse action. It's tab and keys. So that creates a lot of time to do that. That was leading to errors, as I said, and also it was prohibiting that business to scale, because every time they get more inflows, therefore we had to hire more people, and that was a big prohibitor for them from a cost perspective. So as Janice said, it took about 8 weeks to deploy that application. We've integrated with the legacy application. So for all new applications, unless it breaks, we don't touch it. So we're getting around 80% straight through processing. The 20% that's dropping out is more around know your client checks. So we have to follow those up where they don't pass that. That's the only reason why we don't get 100%. Clients aren't giving us the right information, or they're maybe failing their PEP checks, and we've got to talk to them about that. We've also set the foundations for where we want to do for the next application. So since we did the Teninvest application, we put in 4 other additional applications. They've taken us on average 6 weeks to do. So those foundations enabled us to move faster, and we've done 4 more of the applications, which we're seeing much more straight through processing for those. We're also allowing us to take those people and redeploy them to do other things, which is great for us because they're more value-add tasks in doing that. We've also added a daily checklist application, so we can actually oversight everything that's going on instead of waiting on emails and doing that. We also put in a complaints management system. So obviously everyone unfortunately does get complaints from investors, and we had that in various systems, SharePoint 2013, Excel. We've now migrated that into Appian, and we recently just backloaded 2 years of history into Appian, and we're about to run some proof of concepts around that to get some insights into that. How do we connect that to some processing? How do we connect it to a phone call to greater insights into what the complaints are about? And obviously we'll connect that because we're heavily regulated by ASIC and APRA. Every month we have to provide certain data to them. We're going to have an API out to them as well. At the moment it's manually prepared, and we'll just connect that through an API. So I think that's going to give us great benefits as well. And then obviously we've integrated DocuSign as well. So all of that couldn't have been achieved without Appian putting us with the right partner, and the like-minded partner that we chose was Ruboyo. Ruboyo has really been instrumental in that development. They understand where we want to go. They bring a wealth of experience and knowledge to every sprint because they're an automation specialist. They've executed on time. They can spin up additional squads. So we originally started with 1 squad. We've now got 3 squads going, and we gave them a really short time to spin those squads up. But also they can bring accelerators to us as well to help us go faster. So we're talking to one about now, and we're about to hopefully launch that next week as an accelerator. And what that accelerator really is to generate more ideas from our staff, what ideas they want from automation. So we'll put that as an app, and then they can post their ideas out there, and we'll start to use that and to create more work for us and more automation for us as well.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot in 15 months. I mean, it's very impressive, the number of applications you've decommissioned, the new ones you've dropped off. I mean, you brought on 80% STPs, I think is a lofty goal for a lot of people in the first place. So that's, congratulations to the team. And I like the way you've started to talk about the fact that, you look at it in terms of what that does for your customers, for the end customers. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on maybe the customer impact, but also the business benefits that have been realized by the business?
Yeah, look, we're seeing the customer calls go down the call centre because people aren't ringing up and saying, "Have you processed my application?" Right? They're getting that more real time now. They can see that on an application that where there is in the process. So that's reducing our call centre calls. So that's great for us, and also we don't have many errors. So therefore, we're not costing us more money to process those. That's a better customer experience and better employee experience as well. We've decommissioned 4 legacy applications, so that's been great for us from a legacy point of view because maintaining those is costly, especially on-prem. We've gone to a single platform, being Appian, for our life business for all applications coming in. We've streamlined that process as well. So Adnan, who was up in the video, I'm going to be honest with you, he was sceptical when we said we could deploy this in 8 weeks because he was used to 12-month deployments. So then when we deployed it, he said, "Can you do the next one in 6 weeks?" So we did, which was great because we're able to reuse those common services, those APIs that were out there for GBG, for Know Your Client was already built, right? All those user permissions were already done. A lot of the workflows were done. It was just slight changes to that. All the dashboards and the reporting was already done, right? It was just a different label to that. So that made us to go faster. What that also did, created interest in other parts. So we've got Wealth and Capital Markets look after retirement villages, and then an ageing application come in as well, single dependency person on that. So we quickly did a proof of concept on that one as well, and we're now building that in Appian, and that'll go live in October. And some of the stuff they've done is really amazing around how they're going to really give a better onboarding experience for our people who want to get into retirement villages in doing that. We've saved nearly over 3,000 hours in processing times per annum. We deploy every 2 weeks now, whether that be small incremental enhancements, patches, technical debt. We never used to do that. It was usually once a year or every 6 months. So that's much faster. And we've also can look at our oversights very quickly. We can see where applications are with a click of a button. It makes it easier. I go in pretty much every day and see how much money is coming through, right? And quickly look at that. I can sort that quickly. Beforehand, we'd wait till the next day or the following day to be able to tell them that. And the business now can scale, right? Without increasing its overhead or increasing its people, they can scale. So previously, technology was a prohibitor for them to scale the business. We've removed that now with Appian, which is great.
Well, that's really impressive. And as I said, the scaling is probably one of the key benefits at the top level for the business as well as the customer experience. So that's really good. And of course, talking about boats, nothing is ever smooth sailing. I had to put one in. I know it's a learning journey. Can you share some of your learnings from that initial phase? Yeah,
look, I think data wrangling is really tough, right? And we learned that we kind of left it towards the end and got us a bit stuck in the middle a bit there. So we've now, as we're doing all our other applications, Sprint Zero is always about where's the data, what's the flow of the data, what are we going to work through that? And that's making life a lot easier in doing that. Integration with legacy systems, it's never that easy, right? And also, understanding where that technology is heading and what's going on there for those systems is really tough. I think the other one is just really continue to take the impacted stakeholders on the journey. So we demand that every sprint review, they're in the sessions, right? If they're not, we'll stop it. We'll wait till they come. Because we want them to say, acknowledge what's coming for them, what they're going to be using, and get that feedback on what they want. Oh, we don't like that screen there, or that button there, can you change it? And we can quickly pivot in each time. So usually every sprint review now, it's about 40 to 50 people in there. And some of them aren't even impacted, they're just wanting to know what's going on, which creates another great ideas. So another group's come to me and said, oh, can we use this now? So that's creating that swirl of doing that, and that's really important to us. Also, when you deliver, they can't sit there and say, oh, I didn't want that, right? Because they're in there and it's recorded. And the other one is really just balancing. The business wants always new features, but also you've got technical debt patches coming through. So we've got a rule that basically says for every dollar we spend, 75% has got to be in new features and new capabilities, and 25 cents is going to be allocated to technical debt, right? That's the rule we try to manage by. Some sprints we might spend 100% on new features. The next sprint might be 50% on new features because it's technical debt. We've empowered the product owner and the Scrum Master to control that, and they determine what's going on there, but we track it every month to understand where we're heading. And that's really important for us because we don't want to get there 6 months later and go, we haven't done anything on technical debt, and we're now going to spend the next 2 months doing technical debt, and the business gets unhappy with that. So I think that's a balancing act that we're doing right now.
No, that's brilliant. I really like the integration of the business into the development cycle and accelerating the cycle. That's really, really cool. Now, and thanks for sharing the challenges. I think it's important to get into those things with the eyes wide open. Perfect segue to maybe my next question, which would be, you've achieved a lot already in just 15 months. What's next? What are you planning next?
Yeah, so we've got 3 apps in flight right at the moment. We plan to go live in September and October on those. One's the design and distribution obligations. So wealth and capital markets is heavily regulated, being in the funds management world. So we want to uplift our regulatory oversight, and we're building an app to do that. So as clients go into our products, they have to fill out target market data questionnaires, and we can quickly see if that product is the right product for them. So we're building that through Appian, which will give us greater insights. And if they don't meet that, we can talk to them and obviously redirect them into the appropriate product or the likes. As I said, retirement villages is another one we're doing. So onboarding, offboarding. So we're building that and doing that process. That's been an interesting one because I think they've got about 60 to 100 reports, and they just said, we want all those reports again. And when you started to review all those reports, I think everyone had their own little flavour of the same information in a different way of displaying it. So we've consolidated that down and said, no, this is how you get it. And now down the track, we might actually just do an API out to Tableau and push all that data out and then allow them to create their own customisations and slice and dice. But at the moment, we're just consolidating that because I think one of the key things is when you go on these journeys, you just don't want to replicate what you've got and just modernise it. You want to actually take the opportunity to break it down and rebuild it into a better customer experience and a user experience. And the last one we're doing is an investor advisor portal. So we've got many investor advisor portals. So depending on the product, you might have to go to different portals. So you can't get a single view of that. Advisor can't see a single view of their customers. So we're merging that into one portal, and that'll go live around October, which is exciting for us. And I know that we've talked to some of the advisors, and they can't wait. And they actually said the recent feedback was, you've taken it way beyond what we expected, which is great for us as an organisation. So. And next week, we're doing a couple of series of proof of concepts for another part of the business, our insurance business, to prove out that technology as well, which is exciting for us as well. So it's just trying to create those momentums and realise those benefits in doing that.
No, that's brilliant. A lot of activity. That's what you want to hear. You've went above and beyond. Clearly, you're not the one doing all the work. Can you tell me about the structures you might have put in place to scale the platform?
Look. When we started undertaking this automation process, wealth and capital markets, I sat down with the group executive of technology and said, this is what we're doing. And one of the key was we didn't want to develop it ourselves, so we found a partner, being Roboyo. But we also said, see how this works, we might want to create a new business unit as we're centralising everything called automation. And it's working so well, we have created that automation group. So we've got a head of enterprise automation who's just started with us about a month ago. He was in wealth and capital markets as the head of technology, so he's come across to me, so I'm very fortunate having him there. And he's actually built Appian at other companies as well, so he understands it. So that's great. He brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise around that area. We've also created in that team 2 senior automation practice leads who will look at BPA or RPA technology, and they'll be the thought leaders of what we're doing, and then we'll partner with Roboyo on that. As I said, we're using Roboyo as our solution architects, our developers, our QA, technical leads, and partnering with them on that process. Look, I've been very fortunate to have 2 great sponsors. So Esther Kerr, who's the CEO of Wealth and Capital Markets, she's been a big driver into this, and Mark Gay, who's our Group Executive Technology, has seen the benefit of this and created this new business unit for us to drive through. And then we've just got great sponsors like Janice and Adnan who are driving that through us. So I've been very fortunate to have a great team with us to drive that.
Yeah, brilliant. And team and the good sponsorship in the business as well.
I think, look, if you don't have strong sponsors and there to support you, it's always tough, right? It's always tough to do that.
No, that's brilliant. I'm conscious we're getting to time, so maybe any final thoughts you might want to share with the audience that may not be as far progressed as you are?
Yeah, look, Appian's provided us the building blocks to digitise and basically redefine our operational spine. And I think the team was a bit sceptical when I said we could reuse components and go faster. And it's allowed us to do that, going from 8 weeks down to 6 weeks. So I think it's taken that time to set up those foundations. early from the beginning. Might take a bit more time, but you can go faster. And that's what we're seeing in doing that. I don't have to worry about audit logs, security, APIs out to GPT. It's already done, so I just have to flow through that. I think it's also that speed to market. We're delivering new features every 2 weeks. That's enabled us to do that in that agile methodology, which has been great for us. So I think they're the key things that enable us to go way faster than we ever thought. And I think Appian's given us that building block to do that, which is great.
No, that's brilliant. That's really brilliant. Well, I think we're at time, Michael, so thank you very much. And please, everybody, join me in thanking Michael.
Thank you.